concisely. And once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast, and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally, and we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow, send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard, and Lloyd is here. He's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Welcome, welcome. How's it going, David?
I'm doing great.
Glad to have you here. I really appreciate you coming on at the last minute here, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. Folks learning about your background and all your adventures.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. So why don't you just take a second and just to kind of introduce yourself? So, and then we'll go ahead and thank our sponsors after that.
Okay, absolutely. So it's a real honor to be here with you, Lloyd. So I'm currently the co-CEO of Global Anatomix, and I'm the chairman and CEO of a company called Scarlet Imaging. So they kind of connect. Scarlet Imaging is where we have all of our patents and all those things housed, and then Global Anatomix is a connection between the Scarlet business and the Mark Institute in Doral, Florida, which does medical simulations for surgeons and then other doctor practices so that they can continue to hone their skills. So did you want me to go into a little bit of my background, how I got here, or?
We'll talk about that in a little bit
Okay,
more.
very good.
Yeah, yes, but I appreciate what you shared, and so definitely glad to have you here, so folks can learn about your career and your and how you got in entrepreneurship and all that stuff. But first, let's I want to give a shout out to our partners and sponsors and all these different organizations we're affiliated with to kind of help with our Black Founder program and to help founders get the resources they actually need. So just want to give a good big shout out to our partners, the Blacks in Technology Foundation, Startup Science, which is one of our training platforms, Coda, which is some software that you can run your whole back office software. We're partners with them, and we by being a partner, our founders can get that free for 6 months with unlimited AI. Make Startups, that's a training program. Another training program we have, Pitch Bob, that's AI coach for you. So I don't know if we talked about that one with you yet, Dave, but that one you answer a bunch of questions and it spits out a pitch deck for investment, a pitch deck for sales, and a business plan, and a business model canvas. It just loads you up with stuff to kind of get you started. So, and it's got a bunch of perks as well. Our favorite platform is the Lean Stack platform, and that's where we do our business model design training, which is kind of like the foundation for all startup founders, all businesses really. We're part of the Black Innovation Leaders of Florida, and that's pretty fantastic because we have some offerings for our founders through that. And we also are part of the Black Innovation Alliance, which is probably got close to a couple hundred organizations that are members that do the same kind of thing to help founders. And Goody Nation out of Atlanta we're a member of that organization as well, and so just a lot of good combination of things that we can leverage to help founders out. And then we also have sponsors that actually give money, and so these are some of those sponsors, and so we appreciate the efforts that they do, and so so that's pretty. That's kind of who allows us to bring all these activities to founders and help them learn the best practices for building a startup. And so for those of you down in Orlando, the Black Innovation Leaders of Florida are doing another innovation tour down in Orlando. I think the main part of the thing is going to be the 12th, and I'll put something in chat for those of you all who are interested in that. It's a free event, and a lot of good programs planned for that. So hopefully, but I definitely, this is the kind of advertisement for business model design class. And so, David, you're in this class right now. So what do you think?
It is extraordinary.
Okay.
I've had a chance to be at all types of businesses, from advertising to operations and food, and being in retail medicine, also doing some private equity, and then back as a CEO. And these tools didn't exist in a lot of ways. And I think certainly what I'm going through right now, looking at the old way of doing things and looking at the new way of really trying to hone in on the customer, which was essentially what I started out as. Leo Burnett Chicago was a big ad agency, and at the time and Procter and Gamble were two of the most powerful marketing firms in the world, and everything is about what the customer needs. And
Yes.
it's an old saying I tell people: don't give the customer what you want to give them. Give the customer what they want, because if you don't, you fail.
Fantastic. Well, that's the first time I ever heard somebody describe the business model design class in that way. But it is the main key foundation for moving forward, and we appreciate you sharing that. So let's see what else we got here. So this is kind of what that class takes you through. And the simplest way to describe these things, these little icons are business models, and you do a brain dump for the first one, and then you break it up into customer segments. And as you go from left to right, you can see you looks like you're eliminating customer segments. And so you're trying to get to that early adopter customer segment. So we have this 30-day program that covers the first two columns, and then the pink, it actually goes over, gets you ready to sell your product or service even before you build it. And so that's what that's all about. So it's a pretty streamlined program. So it's definitely worth going. And so David, I'm glad you're part of this, because what we're doing is we're kind of helping you get that foundation. Not that you need all of it, but the basic thing here is, if you learn how to communicate with the ecosystem out there, you actually can get stuff to help you go from one stage or one milestone to another one with your startup. And so it's just a way of leveraging resources to kind of move forward. And so we just help founders with the basics that enable them to kind of interact with these entrepreneur support organizations and take advantage of all the resources that are out there. And there's so many. And David, I think for you, I haven't looked at the calendar lately, but since your company is based out of Florida, they have what they call the Florida Venture Forum. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so what they do is you don't have to be from Florida, but they have two events each year, and I think one is coming up where it's an opportunity to pitch for typically between $50,000, $75,000, or $100,000. So you got the kind of high tech company that they would actually really be looking to hear from.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have written it down, and
It's called Florida Venture Fund and Forum. I mean,
okay,
but yeah,
yep.
they normally do stuff in the fall and in the spring.
Okay, I've got it
Yeah.
written down. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that. And so from a fundamental standpoint, with the Kakui Institute, I mentioned we have these programs: the Lean Stack program, the Co-Founder OS, which is Make Startups, Startup Science. That's the where Lean Stack takes you through the milestones that your startup has to reach, and Startup Science takes you through the life cycle phases of your startup. And by the way, if I recommend highly that everybody gets the book that Greg Shepard wrote. I'm listening to the audiobook right now, and he's definitely got everything in plain English speak and step by step how you get through each phase. And he's done it 12 times, had 12 exits, and with several $1 billion in sales with those 12 companies. And so he's literally telling you how to do it, and he's explaining it in simple terms where you can easily understand it. So, and the new thing we got going, and I'll definitely put the link on this, is called Patent Hacks. And so it's basically a learning center that you can learn anything about trademarks and patents, and we're making that available to folks as well. So it's good to be a part of a system where you can use these tools here to kind of totally close your knowledge gap. So anything that you need to do to be successful in the ecosystem, we're definitely trying to connect you with that. I think that's basically it. But basically, I show these slides almost every time. Basically, this is kind of phases that a startup goes through, from an idea to being established and an exit, and then the Lean Stack with what the training, the main core training, business model design. And all you're trying to do is trying to reach these different milestones here, but everybody's trying to get to this product market fit, and that's the most challenging one to get to. But if you can get to that solution customer fit, that's a good one that's earlier that you can get to. And then finally, the Startup Science is just taking you through the life cycle of a startup and everything you need to know to go from this idea stage, vision stage, to an exit. That's what that's all about. So I think with these tools, we can arm founders to go out there and conquer. That's the way I see it. Yes. So, David, as a part of being a part of the business model design class, you also will get access to that Startup Science thing, so you can kind of see it. But I'm pretty sure you've seen that a lot of that stuff already as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, your tools are terrific. I think at the end of the day, you have to have a clear head on what it is that you want to be as an
Yeah.
entity. And then you have to figure out how best to drive that in the space you're in, and demonstrate how you differentiate your business. Because if you can't differentiate, you're just another Me Too player. You can't really make money as a Me Too player. So now, in some cases, like the technology that we have with Global Anatomix is actually fairly unique. No one actually has that. At least we've seen in the marketplace. When doctors see it, they're completely stupefied that you can take a human donor, and have them function lifelike. So the challenge, just as you all are teaching us, is, and especially in our space, is why do I need you? What is the because they've, in their minds, they've been successful for hundreds of years using other means to train.
Yeah.
And so the cycle, as you all have taught us or are teaching us, it's critical to hone in each one of the elements and then get honed in narrow on it. Because at the end of the day, and I'm a big Covey fan as well, but you can't do more than 1 to 3 things at a time or you get, you go nowhere.
Yes.
And so, it is a bit of a leadership challenge because you have to lead people on your team to stay focused. But then the customer, you want to keep them focused on why you're different and better and keep delivering on the things that they are asking us to do. And so again, I go back to you don't give the customer what you want to give them, you give them what they want.
Mhm.
Yeah, we are starting to see some traction on
Mhm.
that. In particular, um, our technology has been showcased under the guise of the Flynn Foundation in Phoenix, Arizona. And for the past year and a half, they have been training residents using our technology, and it is really demonstrating the speed of learning that's never been seen before, as well as the ability to create environments that they never could. I mean, create scenarios that they never could, so people could actually get cases on a donor that they were hoping to get on a live person, and then get this get the same kind of training.
Yeah.
But one of the folks that we've had a really interesting relationship of late was out of Taiwan. The family, the doctor there, his family, his father, I think, put in place like 50 hospitals there in Taiwan, and they have a what's called an ERCAD center, which it's French is what the letters stand for, but basically they deal with the abdomen area of the body and trying to reduce trauma, cancer, all those kinds of things. Um, but what's critical is he saw it in play there in Arizona, and he said, "Hey, I want you to come here." So I've been to Taiwan twice. They were so impressed with the technology. They after we demonstrated it in person, then we came back and did 14 specimens for them, and then they asked for 2 more for a class here in November with Medtronic. So the key thing here is doctors respect another doctor's opinion of things. And so those kinds of groups tend to be, as a target audience, much better for us. The universities are very challenging. They
Yeah.
have challenging budgets and all those kinds of things. But
Yeah, and I think that's what's so neat about the this course you're going through. It's having you look at each one of those customer segments so you can see which one is going to be the early adopter. But before we get into too much detail about General Atomics, I wanted to kind of see how kind of what led you there. And so we want to kind of get your backstory a little bit because you've had a very successful and dynamic career, and so we want to see how all that came together to kind of get you out here in this entrepreneurship stuff. So
okay, yeah, no, that's great. You don't want to be too boastful in your side, so I figured I'd start with what we've been doing.
yeah.
So
So let me just propose this question this way. So like I've heard you say you went to West Point, but what got you interested in the military in the first place?
okay, good question. So I grew up as an Army brat. I was
Oh, okay.
actually born in Germany, both my brother and I.
Mhm.
So my dad is well, he died a year ago, but he was a full bird colonel
Okay.
in the Army. So we traveled a lot, and I remember my mother bringing this to our attention. One year, I was in 3 different 3rd grades and a 4th grade, all in the same year.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
so I in a sense, it was kind of the family business, as you would call it, because my brother, he didn't go to West Point. He was like, "Oh hell no, I'm not messing with that stuff over there."
Yeah. Yeah.
But we were both military officers. But to to try and get in there and all is pretty tough. I was an athlete. I was captain of the football team, and I was in the top of my class, honor society. But I also had another side of me. I was the #1 clarinetist in the state of Maryland for 2
Oh,
years.
wow. Well, that's
So I studied under a guy in the Baltimore Symphony, and so I have a pretty wide range of things that I was capable of doing, and West Point seemed to think I might have the material to go there. I found that West Point is one of those places you either want to be there or you don't. There's no in between. It really sucks.
yeah, yeah.
We took 24 credit hours a semester. We went to
Yeah,
class every day but Sunday, so that was ugly. But so I got
yeah,
into the military. So we'll talk a little bit about the experience in the military. I got a chance to be around some extraordinary people. People like Norman Schwarzkopf, Stan McChrystal, 4-star generals. And I was around a lot of those kinds of capable people, and you just pick up things.
yeah.
And I'll give an example. Schwarzkopf, who was the one who led Desert Storm and all that stuff, he basically told us in an officer call that you will get passed over for something, no matter how good you are. And he always said, stay true to the path that you want to be on and find ways to get there, and learn how to what I call take advantage of your skills, and meet with people who can mentor you and get the doors open for you. So one of the things when you think about this whole mentor thing is,
Yeah,
or the whole concept of what we're trying to do is that mentors help you reduce mistakes, and they open doors for you. And then if you really establish a good relationship, you stay with them almost all your life,
yeah,
as long as they're living. So those are some things I picked up there. I got out of the military. I got frostbite at the National Training Center after 5 years. And I went in a different path than what you typically saw with folks who left. So we had a mandatory at least 5 years. But I went into advertising.
okay,
And so I worked on RCA, M&M's, Kraft, and United. So I got a wide range of types of businesses. So two were what we would call the core type of packaged goods businesses, Kraft
yeah,
and M&M's, and then United Airlines was more of a service industry. So I was there when we did the Rhapsody in Blue campaign and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, one of the key things that I think is part of what we're doing with we're doing right now is Burnett had a very structured way of going about understanding the customer.
Oh, fantastic!
And
Yeah.
that's why it was better than anyone else.
Okay.
Is that it got underneath all of the minutia and understood what does the customer really think or want to do with this product. And so we did research drove how we, just like what we're doing with the back work there, research drove how we decided to talk to the customer. And we when we talked to creatives, we had a creative strategy, and we used what was called a convince that because. Convince women between 18 to 34 that we'll call it I just forgot the name of there's a lady's underarm, I forget the but anyway, Proctor made it. And so what you're doing is you're trying to understand what it is. Is it the smell? Is it the feel? Is it all of those things? Because if you're going to dominate the space, you got to deliver on what it is that they want.
Yeah.
And then you got to market the heck out of it. So anyway, I then moved over on the client side. I was at McDonald's Corp. And so I was in marketing, and then I moved into an accelerated operations from my military background. I tended to provide some leadership potential that they said we want to take advantage of because the operations people run the business.
Yeah.
So I did an accelerated operations program. They sent me to University of Chicago. I did some financial work there. My first, I'll call it bigger assignment coming out of that, I was the president of McDonald's in Puerto Rico. And then I was the chief operating officer of Boston Market. And so now Boston Market was quite a challenge because they went through a real high and then dropped off and
Yeah.
got sold and all those things. And that was a business that lost its way. And so we found a way to get it back under control with some using some Covey techniques. We did the Covey 8th habit, got the business under control, and we sold it to private equity. And I had when I was in the food business the first time, I always had the connection with helping drive the success of women. Women in food is a tough game because just say you're running a Houlihan's, you got to run a bar and it's 2 a.m. in the morning. It's kind of hard if you have a child.
Yeah.
And so they created what's called the Women's Food Service Forum. So I was in that group, the top of the top, because I was a C-suite person. But here's what the big thing is that we taught companies that they were missing the boat with not having enough women on their teams. And we demonstrated them the numbers that those businesses that had 25% or more women on their team outperformed the other Fortune 500 companies way, it's just the numbers were astounding. Now it's over 50%. Actually, it was 25% better on S&P and now 50%. Wow. But we talked, and they taught us two things: an elevator pitch, kind of like what we have on ours. They taught us a 30-second elevator pitch when you're trying to court someone to want your product.
Okay.
So when you said elevator pitch, I said, bing, I've heard, I know that concept. And then the other thing was they taught us to have a personal board of directors.
Okay.
So think about this. No business operates without a board of directors, whether you're public, private, whatever, because you need alternate opinions about your career and where you want to go. So you enlist people who are doing the things that you want to do. So if wanting to be a CEO, I had like 6 people that had been in those kind of roles, and I would call them up and go, hey, here's what I'm looking to do. What do you think? And so I used that leverage. When we sold Boston Market, I moved into retail medicine.
Okay.
Because my mentor said, you should demonstrate your leadership in another industry. So I went into medical retail, which was LCA Vision. And this was an extreme challenge because I showed up there in April of 2008 in the throes of the recession.
Oh, wow. That's right.
And that was a category that did 1.4 million procedures in 2007. And in 2008, it did 650 or 750, something like that. So the CEO there ended up moving out. I got there in April. He got moved out in September. Myself and the chief financial officer, he and I formed a team and another co-CEO model because the issues were so huge. One human couldn't do it. But we essentially got the business down to cash flow neutral in a couple of years, and the business is recognized as best in class. And then another thing I did to kind of reinvigorate our surgeons and our own people was I put together a program with the Wounded Warrior Project.
Okay.
And so my ophthalmologist did their eyes for free. And we did their primary caregiver. So think about it. Someone's 18 years old. They may not be married and all. They have a mother and father. They might be wearing glasses. They have no arms or legs or ears where they can't put on glasses. And so if that person knocked the glasses of their mother off and she can't see and all, then, we did both. And so we did 3.5 million in in-kind gift surgeries at that time. And at that time, I also used part of that initiative I did my master's in business and leadership at Northeastern. and kind of told that story that we did with the Wounded Warriors, because it reinvigorated our business, gave it some life, etc. And then, as most people will find in their life, you run into challenges. I had cancer, prostate cancer. I had to shut it down for about 18 months, and then came back into play. I did a little work in the iBusiness side in private equity, and my mentor. So again, when I talk about creating these relationships, my mentor was asked to come back to be the president of McDonald's USA.
Wow.
So he says, I know you're over there doing that private equity thing, but I want to get you back on my team over here. So I went to Dallas. A few quick things there. So Dallas was the key market for doing any kind of beef testing and all that kind of stuff. And then we were also in the throes. He came back, and the company was under this whole restructuring driven by McKinsey.
Mm-hmm.
McKinsey actually they started 11 levels when I left, which I'll get to. It was only 5 or 6. So essentially 2 things. McKinsey came up with, remember we talked about key metrics and all those kind of things, KPIs. So they came up with 6 metrics that they felt would demonstrate McDonald's being able to dominate the space.
Okay.
You're good at these 6 things, and you're probably going to be doing well. And so 2 things. One is my team out of Dallas. So we had 22 regions at that point. But we led the entire country for 24 straight months, every month, every quarter.
Wow, that's amazing.
No one had done it for more than 2 months.
Uh-huh.
And then we also were doing the beef test. So real quick, we for 3 years, I worked on the development of fresh beef at McDonald's.
Okay.
And when the CEO announced the first year in 2018, when it got fully launched, we were up 30%, and that was 40 million more quarter pounders we sold.
Yeah, it's a lot of quarter pounders.
Yeah, so and people forget about that. McDonald's is huge. So then next, I then with new restructuring, I moved over to be the field officer for Atlanta, where I had the second largest area, over 1,700 locations, doing over $5 billion in sales. So did that, and didn't talk much about it, but I have another illness that I have to deal with, and I hit 60, and I was like 2 to 4 times a week on planes was just getting a little too much for me to do. So I stepped out, and again, this whole thing about having mentors and people to stay in touch with. So I was transitioning out, and a good friend of mine says, "Hey, Dave, we got a new technology here. We're looking to try and grow." And I was like, "Okay, what is this?" and so that's how I got brought into this whole thing with it was Scarlet Imaging at the time.
Yeah.
I would tell you where it got really interesting is, so I was leading the project, and then we were looking to show it to the folks at the Mark in Miami to show them what this technology could do. And we went in there and presented, and it turned out we had the same philosophy about our business, same kind of elements in terms of our mission statement. So there was a lot of connectivity.
Okay.
And their board liked what they saw. These are orthopedic doctors, and 5 of them are orthopedic doctors for the Dolphins and the Panthers.
Okay, gotcha.
So they're pretty top-notch kind of physicians. And so I said, well, we should come back and demonstrate this, because I hadn't seen it at work, really. I'd seen it in film. So this is one of those things where I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do around these dead bodies. I was like, I hope I don't pass out. But I had no problems. And essentially, I actually helped with the inventor to train people on how to perfuse these specimens. And we have another category killer kind of product we call Brightview. It is a contrast agent, and we're able to show the body all the way down to the capillary level. No one has ever been able to do that. The Netter, Gray's Anatomy, those are all drawings that people do that they think they know what's there, but we can actually show them what is really there.
Yes.
And so I certainly invite folks to go to our website if they'd like. We're actually doing some updating of it, but and so it's Global Anatomic, or www.globalanatomics.org. But at the end of the day, we have two things that we're trying to do. We want to change medicine so that it becomes safer for physicians to be able to practice their craft. Because my wife is a physician, and she said, you don't want to get operated on in June or July because that's when the changeover with the newbies coming on and the other folks moving out. And so we want to eliminate that. We want doctors to be able to come in confidently, be able to do whatever kinds of medical procedures or operations they have to do with great confidence. And so that's what this allows doctors to do. And it also, if you notice, if you had any kind of medical training, people use plastics and other formaldehyde laden types of products to learn about the anatomical components, as well as doing some surgical things. And that stuff is loaded with toxins that are not good for you.
Right.
And so our products are what we call minimally toxic. We can't say no toxic because it's basically at the same level that you would use to clean your bathroom or an OR, that kind of. But at the end of the day, it doesn't leave a negative implant on the environment. And so, it is and has been taking us quite some time to get on the right path to having this thing blast off.
Yes.
And I can tell you that the amount of learning that I've had being around you 4 or 5 times now, I've had a chance to sit down and hear you tell us the kinds of thinking is much, much different and more advanced and palatable if done in small pieces. You know what I mean? You can't eat an elephant in one bite.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think we'll eventually get to the point where we really know what we're doing. And we certainly, the contacts that you have and the folks you work with are extraordinary folks. And so I am extraordinarily excited about learning. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think is so neat about the Lean Stack program is that you got all these ideas in your head and then you break them up into smaller pieces, and then you stress test each of those pieces to see if they're desirable, viable, or feasible. And if and not all of them are going to pass all 3 of those tests. So why spend time on them if they're not going to pass those stress tests? And so
yeah, so that becomes the problem with sometimes people don't want to know. You know what? Because here's what happens. It challenges their assumptions.
Yes,
they've already had in their mind that, oh yeah, these guys are, this is going to be good for them. And then you find that, what? I mean, it's so, and so you don't want to be spinning around like a top going nowhere. I think that's what the Lean Stack process, I think, really does, is it forces you to come to grips with your reality.
Yeah, get rid of that bias. And looks like Corey has a question here about any integrations with synergies with robotic surgery.
Yes, we have. So that's a great question. So the first, what I call exhibition of our technology was at St. Joseph's Hospital in Phoenix, connected with the Barrow Institute and Creighton University. And they did 22 surgeries in 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday. And it was all robotic surgery, including brain surgery, which most of the time nobody can even think about trying to do something in the brain because it deteriorates so quickly.
Yeah.
And so that sort of set the tone for where this concept is going. And that's how the Flynn Foundation grant came into play. Was those doctors were so blown away. And I'll give you an example, two examples of what the technology showed them. There was a doctor, Dr. Gillespie, had a patient that had, it's called like, there's a medical term, but it's like a pinched aorta. And it is so painful. People are like, just kill me. If you can't fix it, just kill me. I can't stand it. And so in the Da Vinci Robotics console, they see things in 3D.
Gotcha.
And so he literally can see the nerves in the body with our technology, being just like human. I mean, the fat in the tissue looks just like what they're used to seeing in a live human. And he was able to test 2 different methods to not disturb or disrupt the nerve. And he called this patient on that Monday. He says, "Hey, I think I might have something. I've tried a couple of ways. I think I can do this. What do you think?" He goes, "Please do this or I got to die. I can't stand this." And he did the surgery and he was successful. Now he's got people from all around the world calling him to execute this surgery, which they never could have done without using our technology to allow them to see it, because trying it on a human, you don't know what the outcome's going to be, testing it. And one of the other things is, we had one of them had our contrast agent, the Brightview, and this surgeon was just screaming in the console. She was doing an adrenalectomy, and she was able to see from the white where the blood vessels are, because they can't see those things when they're operating because it's not highlighted in white like our contrast agent does. And so now she could see why they were getting bleeders and all, because they didn't know that stuff was there. And then, so here's the real cool thing though, is she says, "You know what I'm doing? I'm going to cut the adrenal vein." And our inventor says, "What? That might be kind of bad." She goes, "It absolutely is, but it could happen." So she cut it, and then she pulled her senior resident, says, "Get in a console. I want you to fix that." And so now what happens is with our donors is they can create the problems that they have and work to learn how to fix them, so they don't freak out in the operating room when it actually happens, because mistakes do happen.
Yeah,
but if you've had a chance to work through that, so it was really, and we've seen that in other cases where we did a streaming to this hernia group, and this doctor that's in Taiwan knows the folks who were there, but one of the residents hit a vein and it shot up on the camera. And we could see that because the camera was attached to the doctor. And the one doctor who was in the auditorium yells out, "Oh my God, I would have shit my pants." And so, because that was a big mistake. I mean, the camera was all full of blood, but the attending that was there with her literally showed, he was calm, under control, how to arrest the problem, find where the actual blood was coming from, where the squirter was, and showed us how to do that. And it was just because we were pumping expired cord blood. We had a pump, so the specimen was acting just like a live person with the blood. And so that allows people to really be able to be confident in the OR when they get a chance to do that, and knowing they're not hurting anyone. They can practice these salaries or surgeries and go have lunch or a coffee, come back and continue where they left off. They can try different methods for trying to solve a problem with these situations. So this is the kind of you know, we talk about what is your difference? Our difference is that nobody else can do that at all. And so we wanted to become the standard in a lot of ways.
So let's I want to kind of pull this thing up again
Yes.
real quick. And so you got all these different ways you could go with the technology you have. And so that's what the purpose of this diagram is. And so you got people training how to do surgeries. So is that like a college, I guess, a medical school?
Yes, you could have you know, at a lab, wet lab, you could have it at
Okay.
universities or hospitals. So those three are kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is with what you're doing with this these business models and these different customer segments, you're literally trying to get to the one that's going to allow your startup to succeed, to get to that product market fit, that area, where everybody's trying to get to. But I just want to make sure people understand that's why you go through the course, because you got so many different places you could sell your stuff. You need to figure out the most viable one that's gonna get through all these milestones, and that's all you're doing. And you just really learning how to do this with any idea, with any type business. But we got a question here, and then I'm gonna kind of want to do a recap because you said so many things that are useful. I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of some of those things. So Vercel has a question here for you.
So that's an interesting question. Well, we because of the patent and all those kinds of things, we need to be able to fund a lot of stuff that keeps the business going. I mean, I've done some work with 501(c). I actually have another technology with some more of my West Point classmates that is actually does some really interesting things. It's we call it terahertz technology, and I just want to make sure I said it right. But essentially, this is designed to be a process and a program that is about growing a business and then connecting to. So, for instance, we can do things in research and all, like with a J&J or some of these other ones. So it really didn't fit a 501(c) model. But you raise a good point. Maybe that's another route we could take a look at. I don't see that right now, but
so it is a for-profit company, right?
yes.
Yeah. And so he might be assuming that it's a 501(c) since you got a .org as opposed to a .com.
Yeah, you can use .com on it too. I think the initial, the one that's on our business card, it actually flips you over to a .com.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so I'm sorry for any confusion on that, but
yeah,
but I can tell you that in connection what we're doing. So there are 501(c)s that connect to the engine of our business. So people donate their bodies or whatever, and they're a lot of times done by entities that are 501(c)s.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you definitely may end up creating one or partnering with
right. And so that's exactly right, because we're partnering with someone right now who does some of that work, and later on that could be a way in which we attach another capability. And it could be a 501(c), depending on how we're
yeah. So one of the strategies is it's like, let's say I think you were mentioning a while back, one of your customer segments doesn't have really good budgets.
Yeah. So if you look
So,
at universities, some of them have not had their budgets increased in 6 to 8 years.
yeah. So my point is, my point is that maybe with I'm trying to think how to say this. So um, maybe you can leverage a 501 3C partner or your own 501(c) and get the um, and then let the I'm trying to think if you got some rich donor that donates to the 501(c), and then the your customer can actually get a grant or something from the 501(c) to pay you to do what to buy your product or whatever, So like it's kind of funny, and I'll mention this and I'll give the example, and then that way you'll see what I'm talking about. So right, you noticed earlier I said something about patent hacks, right?
Mhm.
Like the way we got access to patent hacks was patent hacks got one of their I guess rich friends to donate some money to a foundation to give scholarships out to nonprofits so they can actually use their patent hack services.
Yeah. So if we had a rich donor, just
Yeah,
like what you're seeing with the Flynn Foundation, which
yeah,
is a 501(c), so there we do have that in play. It's just um, we're not the owner of it, if that
right.
makes
But no,
sense.
yeah, no problem.
But yeah, if a rich donor wanted to try and piggyback on to help residents get scholarships to train on our technology, that is another good way to
Yeah,
flourish. So
yeah.
I'm going to actually write that one down because
Yeah,
that's
because like
another.
basically what happened with um, Black Innovation Leaders of Florida, they ended up getting a $10,000 grant to actually buy the patent hacks software so we can actually offer it to our founders. So yeah, so that's kind of what the strategy is. But what I wanted to do now, David, was you mentioned quite a few things. What you learned from your military counterparts, like this idea your as an individual, you should have a board or some something like that.
Yeah, personal board of directors, but
Yeah,
that was on the but you need it in whatever industry you're in, you
yeah,
should pick out some people who are excelling in it. And you know what's interesting is a lot of people are flattered that you even ask them
yeah,
to be a
yeah,
mentor. They're like, "Really?" Because that gives them a sense of, "Wow, I've got some moxie here." And
yeah,
now it assumes that that person isn't so self-absorbed that they only want to talk and not listen.
yeah,
That's not good. That's not the right. You want to have somebody who respects your opinion. You want to hear from there, and then they sometimes will connect you to another friend of theirs that they know, because the big cheeses hang out with other big cheeses, being
yeah,
facetious.
yeah.
And he'll kick you over to someone who is actually more adept at that particular issue than they are, and then you're talking to the experts where you would never have access to them.
That's exactly right. I'm trying to I think one takeaway we can take away. So in your personal life, you can have like an advisory board or whatever, but in your startup the same way. And so
Mhm.
like in the startup science curriculum, uh, it basically telling you to get a um, a user type board that can give you advice by trying out your product, and also an advisory board like you're saying. So you use these same concepts in business. What the startup science says, get an industry advisory board. So as you're going through your phases, this industry advisory board can help you kind of get through it. And then as you're building your product, you have this customer advisory board that can actually give you feedback on what you're doing. So it's
Yeah,
just
I don't know anybody that gets anywhere all by themselves. Just
right.
doesn't happen. That's I call that the Clint Eastwood legend in their own mind. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Um, You just the issue here is just being careful about the people you select. Now,
Yeah,
I can give
exactly.
you, the other thing to think about in that thing, whether it's personal or even how you're building your model,
Yeah,
is that you want to have people who are diverse
yes,
in many aspects. And I'm going to give you a good example of how this works. So you had GE decided that they were going to build a plant in Mexico. Well, they didn't have anybody on that board that spoke any Spanish.
yeah,
So this is when I was growing. So this is in the 70s. And they built a car called the Nova in Mexico. And in
yeah,
Spanish, Nova, which we say no va, means no go. Well, why would you buy a car whose name is no go?
yes,
It failed miserably. And
yeah,
so this is where you got to think outside of yourself and know that you cannot know everything. And if you have, and you always got to have one of those people in your team that's a pain in the ass, naysayer, anal retentive to a fault, because they stop you from stepping on landmines unnecessarily. If they had somebody in their team that spoke Spanish, they're like, you might want to think about that name. Let me tell you why. I mean, they lost millions of dollars
hmm,
building a plant to do nothing.
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I'm just putting that on the table as you think about that, the concept and how it really has multiple kinds of components to it, personal as well as the business side. So if you try and surround yourself with only people that are like you're probably going to get into trouble somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And so the other thing was, so what I heard you say, you were in high school, you were captain of the what football team you said or something?
Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's leadership, you know, right there. Then so you could, what you learned by being a leader there, you took it in the military and learned even more leadership principles. And so were you able to apply all those things in all those different corporate
Yeah, yeah.
situations you were in?
So I'll tell you. So I pulled. So I was actually a part of a Harvard Business Review, and
Okay,
I actually, when I was at McDonald's, they sent me on a fellowship to Harvard Business School. But
okay,
there was an article written by Boris Grossberg. So I still stay in touch with this guy. So I was back actually because I was the CEO of LCA Vision at the time, and they were calling um, up CEOs who were academy graduates
okay.
and talk to them about the transition from the military and then in the civ life and how we were doing. And this article
Mhm.
calls which of these people is your future CEO? The different ways military experience prepares managers for leadership.
Okay,
And so this was written by Boris Grossberg, Andrew Hill, and Toby Johnson. It was in the HBR review, November 2010.
okay.
And so it's interesting because a lot of what they said made sense to me in this case. The graduates from West Point tended to have much more developed skills in being innovative and having to make quick decisions
Yeah,
to do things because we're on the ground
yeah,
and people are shooting at us, and you got to go. You guys got to get over there, and you got to get there. So that. Whereas the Navy and the Air Force guys build basically are function around big systems. So
hmm,
you're on a ship, you're worried about a generator. A generator starts failing. You got to deal with that. But most cases, nobody's dying unless the thing blows up. In our cases, people are dying all around you because they're getting shot. And the
yeah,
Air Force is the same way. They got jets, a lot of logistics. But at the end of the day, they're effective in their style in which the environment that they're in, and they think right.
mhm,
And the military tries to teach you how to do those things, and then it's up to you to take those teachings like what you're doing with us and then apply them
yeah. But
appropriately, because you can teach someone all you want. If they don't apply them to the situation they're dealing with, it may not be effective. you
so
know
so one thing I heard you say too is one of your advisors said, trying your leadership skills in different industries. I never really heard that kind of advice before, but it sounds like that's exactly what happened with you. So what difference did that make?
Okay, so what it did was it taught me to use things that I already knew
Okay.
and applied them to other uh, types of industries, but you still have to learn the technical components of it. So I still had to learn, presbyopia, all those words and things that ophthalmologists use, because I had about 40 or so ophthalmologists, I had optometrists, and then I had ophthalmic techs. So you still have to be an expert in the technology, but here's the things I did were different. I'll give you a couple examples, two examples. I put into place metrics for our folks that were reasonable, and
Okay.
always put people in a position of trying to excel.
Gotcha.
And that allowed them, you start taking the business to a higher level because the people that are excited about where they're going and all that. But I'll give you an example of where the West Point thing and Leo Burnett thing came into play. So
Okay.
we were leaking oil, 33 million, losing money a year. And I brought in a new marketing person. And I also, what I did was I leveraged one of my mentors from Leo Burnett, who was running what's called Element 79. He had been the CEO of Footcomb Belting, another big ad agency. So I brought him in to help us get some research. So we did this research, and essentially we learned that we needed to make the doctor the star, because people were buying the doctor, not the damn LASIK Plus logo and all emblem. But the board was very afraid of the doctors having too much power.
Okay.
And so we crunched the numbers, looked at the research, and I brought my marketing guy in, and I sat down with the chairman and I said, "Sir, this is the plan we want to do." And he was pushing back, and I said, "Well, let me tell you something. I know enough about this that and this is what I told him. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. I do. And if the thing doesn't work, then fire me. But this is what we have to do. This world you're living in is gone." And this is an old guy.
Yeah.
I just said, "Hey, you're out of touch. This is what the data says. And if I can't do that, then just fire me now, because I know this crap here that you have us doing is not acceptable." And he let me do it. And the thing that was so horrible was these were a bunch of crusty old guys. I'm not going to get into races and all that thing, but a bunch of crusty old guys that were financial only. And they set up a plan for us for a bonus and all that stuff that they knew could never be done.
Okay.
And we beat it by 11%. And you know what they did? They stiffed us on our bonuses.
I believe it. I believe it.
I was in complete shock. I mean, the lady who was our HR person, they were giving her less money than some of my guys who earned it because it was written in the plan. Ours was discretionary at my level. And here's what I said, "Sir, she was as important to this performance as anybody." I said, "Myself and my co-CEO are willing to take 5,000 from ours to give her 10,000 more money, because she deserves more than these other guys." And I'm thinking, I put it up there as, kind of a last resort, but those SOBs took our money. Who would do that? I mean, I was willing to do it. I mean, I wouldn't have put it on the table if I wasn't going to do it. But I was just beyond shocked at the audacity of these guys, tight money. And so the thing here is that you're going to know you're right, and there are times when it's not necessarily going to go all the way right that you want
Gotcha,
to.
gotcha.
And so I just put the thing, do not let that stop you from continuing to trudge forward, because you know what the right thing to do is. And keep talking to people about it, just to make sure that what you're thinking and what you're feeling is still that. And that's why these personal board of directors can help you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. Yeah, so as we kind of start to close out here a little bit, I wanted, so I've noticed since we met that you are really excited about the technology stuff that you're working is, because it is pretty amazing. But how do you kind of balance that excitement about the technology, you know, uh, don't, I guess what I'm saying is, and not let it get you in the way of doing your business model the way you should do it and going through these processes.
Yeah. So I look at the technology as the tool to ground you, but it cannot think for you.
Right. Mhm.
And so what I mean is that it spits a lot of stuff that it's been programmed to know.
Mhm.
But and this is why I kind of like our guys, we're on the ground and
Yeah,
we know what's going on. I don't care what they're saying. These people are shooting at us and you can't see it. I'm being
yeah,
facetious. But so
yeah.
the thing is that I have been extraordinarily blown away. I remember when I had that first meeting and you just were doing that thing with that chat GPT, and I was like, what the hell? That's ridiculous. I mean, and the reason I know that is because um, I think it was with you all. I did that whole SBIR thing basically on my own.
Mhm.
And our guy who's put together the lean stack thing there, he goes, that's not possible. Well, I didn't have those tools available at the time I was doing it. And
Yeah,
so the issue is that I see them as a bonus to speed up the amount of understanding
yeah, yeah.
information you need to make a decision, but it cannot make the decision for you.
Right.
It can
But
only get you quicker to
yeah. So
options and things like that. So you gotta kind of put it in as a
so we can talk about that, but what I was really asking, so
okay.
like, so was like, so you're excited about your technology that your company has, but the and going through this lean stack process, it it's more focused on the business model for that you use to make money with the technology.
Right.
And so it's kind of like the idea is the business model is the product as opposed to the actual product. So and this is when you're actually trying to get help and the buy-in, to get people partners and stuff like that. And so but that's what I was really asking you about is you got a solution that you're excited about, but you remember what this customer thing you were talking about, that
Yes,
the
sir.
customer, and so that's what problem the customer has, and focusing on that and what job the customer is trying to do as a focusing on your solution. And so making
Yeah,
sure you
so
understand
that's
that
that's where
properly.
you are on that fine line going down the railroad track,
Yeah.
which is like I said before, you got to give the customer what they want, not what you want to give them. And that's what I
Yeah.
keep trying to remind our people. I said, no, because a lot of people come up with all kinds of new ideas. I said, time out. That's not going to help anything. We got to they're telling us this is what they want. And if we're not doing that, then you should fold up and
Yeah.
do something else.
Yeah. And so now getting back to the what you were talking about with the AI stuff. So the AI is just a tool to help you learn faster. That's
Yes.
that's really all it is. It's yeah, and so that's the way you have to think about it. It's just a tool. And in the Lean Stack platform, Ash is basically saying, the since everybody has all these tools, and everybody can build stuff, it's the secret to success is how fast can you learn? Can you learn faster than your competitor? And that's
Well,
what the real competition is
yeah,
now.
so there's two components of that.
Mhm.
It allows you to get to what you need to assess quicker than anything you can think of.
Yeah,
But then your assessment is the jewel
yeah, that's exactly right.
because, and then this whole issue of can you get there faster than anybody else? Well, that is the challenge, as you taught us yesterday
Hmm.
about staying, or 2 days ago, staying ahead because somebody
Yeah,
else is coming to take you out.
yeah,
Or at least, become number two with whatever
yeah,
you have. And
yeah,
so that's and now in my space, uh, there isn't anything comparable at this point in time.
yeah.
But that's a false,
Yeah,
that's a false platform to be standing on because
yeah, for
people are going
sure,
to be
for
taking
sure.
shots at you. And
Yeah,
so where I see the learning that I'm getting from you is you got to take the information. You got to understand what your business looks like and who your customer is.
yeah.
Once you get that, now you got to start testing it, and you're still testing it all throughout the
The time,
life of the
all the
business.
time. Yeah.
Because if you're not, somebody's coming in and knock you off the pedestal.
So yeah, so it's you. So the problem that the customer have, the job that the customer is trying to do, that so like however they're doing that job now, that's your competition.
Yeah.
And see, that's what the problem you got. You the only one that's got this technology, you got the solution, but but the your competition is getting them to switch, from doing whatever they're doing now to what you got. And so
So,
that's why you have to, and that's why the problem is what you should focus on in the job the customer is actually trying to do, and understand that. Because once you understand that, that's what you can do to cause the switch from the current way to your way. And that's what
so
the whole lean
yeah,
stack thing is
so
trying to do.
I like that because we have a solution in many ways to a problem they don't even know they have.
Yeah. But they're doing something now, and your job is to get them to switch. But the
Right.
only way you're going to get them to switch is understand the job they're doing, and help them, and show them how that's broken. But that's what innovation is all about, is getting them to actually switch from something they're already doing to what you're selling.
Which,
And
and I'll be real quick. So last thing. So that in at Burnett and having a bunch of Procter and Gamble products,
yeah,
that is in the packaged goods side, the
yeah,
hardest thing to do and most costly is brand switching.
yeah,
Somebody likes Colgate toothpaste and you want to
yeah,
get them over to Crest.
yeah,
You're like, why the hell do I need to change? I'm quite fine. I like the taste. It does what I want
yeah,
on my teeth. I'm not buying it. So you have to find the method that interests them to do it. And I'll give you real quick a story on how this happened. So with Kraft, you had Vandenberg Foods, and what they did was they rolled out Surf, and they were going up against Tide. And so
hmm,
what they did was smartly, they sent samples of the product based on the kind of pH value on the water. So they sent powder to the right places and liquid to the other. And they gave them a coupon that basically allowed them to get the product for $1.
hmm,
So what happened was you had a whole lot of trial or testing of it, and they got people to switch, and
hmm,
they killed Kraft.
hmm,
And so the thing is that ours is a little different because we want them to switch, right? Because we know that the product is better. But the problem is we can't give them a coupon, and we can't give it to them for free. Now, if we
right.
had like $100 million of capital, being facetious, but where we could give them a specimen and go, hey, try it out.
But
But that might tell them you have a problem, you just didn't know it,
yeah,
and
but
here's
but
a
see,
solution to it.
yeah, see, that's why that idea, like the patent hack thing, what they did, they had a rich friend, they they're having trouble selling their product, I guess. So they say donate this money to this foundation, and then the foundation give out grants to buy patent hack's product.
Yeah, so
But
I'd like to mark that down as donate to buy.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, so we need to go ahead and wrap up. We done
Yes,
went
sir.
way
I
over,
know.
but I think you had brought a lot of things to the table here that folks can learn and running their companies and their startups. And it was definitely great hearing about your journey. And I definitely learned some stuff. So any last thing you want to share with the audience before we sign off?
Well, the only thing I would tell you is that there's always going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
And I recommend that you just keep your wits about you, keep a good attitude. I think the people I've been around that have been most successful have a very solid routine. So
Hmm.
figure out, have a routine that works for you. Doesn't have to work for anybody else. It just needs to work for you. If you are comfortable doing meditation, all those kinds of things, working out, all those things, because the problem is you put a lot of stress on yourself. And if you don't have ways in which you can mitigate the impact of that, you don't get there quickly.
Hmm.
So I recommend that you figure out what works for you and roll with it and kick butt.
Yep.
And good
Right
luck
on.
to you.
All right, fantastic. So we really appreciate you being here. And next week the guest we were supposed to have tonight, she's going to come next week, and basically it's going to be talking about safe. So as far as raising money, for your startup. But to me, when you kind of get to those stages where you need to raise money like that, I think there's a lot of money out in the ecosystem. You just have to kind of find out about these resources and leverage them. But the only way you're going to be able to leverage them, you got to have that foundation of that business model and be able to pitch your business model clearly and concisely to convince them to kind of help you move forward. All right, we'll see everybody next week. Thanks again, David. If you just hold on a second, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here.
Yes, sir. No problem.